I've never worked at Starbucks. Although, in case you don't know, they are one of the people that pay for you to go to school. So I hear that they're a really good place to work. That just wasn't my calling. And then I use one of these Bigelow teas, which is the mint medley. And I also use lemon ginger plus probiotic. And there's some honey in here. I'm trying to cut back on caffeine because it makes me a little bit jittery. Hey everyone, welcome back to Life Talk with Lady T, where we keep it real about entrepreneurship, finance, and the creative journey. Today, I'm going to share with you what I've learned in business so far. So if you're an entrepreneur, a creative, or someone just interested in the journey, stay tuned. I'll be dropping some real gems today. And if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in business, it is okay to make mistakes. Naturally, we may not always be inclined to be an entrepreneur, and we really have to take time to learn our craft. One of the biggest things that I've learned in business is that mistakes are part of the process. I can't tell you how many mistakes that I have made along the way of being an entrepreneur. I was a 9-to-5 worker, and it was great. I learned a lot about business or what not to do in business, but that doesn't necessarily prepare you for running your own business when you don't have any of those systems set in place. So you are HR, you are marketing, you are everything. You are the procurement department. You have to compare prices and figure out what you're getting. Are you getting the best deal? But I do want you to remember that mistakes do not define you. They refine you. They help you to sharpen your tool and get better at what you're doing, your craft, and they're definitely going to help propel you forward. You have to analyze, adjust, and keep moving. Perfection isn't the goal, progress is. And sometimes you have to know when to pivot. Sometimes you start something and you realize this ain't it, and that's okay. So for example, I've been a hairstylist for 15 years, and I'm constantly refining the packages that are offered to people, the bundle deals, and sometimes I realize that I just don't have enough clients seeking out a specific style. And you have to be very mindful of the industry that you're in, the location that you're in, and the likelihood that that customer is going to find you. So let's say, for example, I started out being a weaver. This is traditional weaves. This is the braid down, the sew up with just traditional extensions. And when K-tips and things got on the market years ago, I wanted to start advertising for this particular service. Now, in case some of you don't know, K-tips is a little bit on the pricier end, and it has its advantages. It lasts a little bit longer than the traditional sew-in, use a little bit more flexibility because essentially it's just your hair being all out over your head. It's pulled into these sections, and hair is individually bonded to that client's scalp temporarily. It's like a fusion bond. But I wanted to do all of this advertising for it, and in case you don't know, advertising isn't cheap, so it goes beyond just marketing online for free. Sometimes you may have to put paid ads out. Sometimes you may want to make flyers, postcards, and that can get costly if you don't have the return on investment. So I put that aside. I have gotten micro lot clients over the years, but maybe I was just a little bit too early to arrive at that before. You know, people were still stuck on, I want to pay $100, $150, $200 for the traditional weave, and I want to maybe come get it maintenance, and then I want to take it out and I'm going to get it again, as opposed to making an investment of $600 to $800 to get micro links, K-tips, I-tips, and then maybe not knowing what to do with it. So pivoting isn't failure. It's adapting to what works. The key is being honest with yourself and listening to your audience and the data. If the data shows you do not have the numbers for it, then maybe you want to consider tabling that and coming back to it, or slow walking it. I also want to talk about being okay with feeling overwhelmed. Entrepreneurship is not always glamorous. There are some days that you're going to feel exhausted, confused, even defeated. For me, there are not a lot of, well, I'll take that back. There are entrepreneurs in my family, but they're older entrepreneurs. But in my immediate family, I kind of felt like a fish out of water. Like I didn't have a lot of people that I could talk to about entrepreneurship or what I was experiencing. And if you have family members, like your mom, for example, your mom loves you. She may listen to your stories, but if she's not in business or she's never really delved into it, then she's kind of listening and she may not know what to say. Or friends who are not in business, they're not always going to say the most positive things to you. And here's a little secret. Some people are just not great at active listening. It's like they've got their life and their world over here, and then you've got yours. And you got to learn to not take it super personal, but it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Trust me, it comes along with the territory of being an entrepreneur because you are carrying a lot on your shoulders. You don't want it to fail. You want to succeed. You've probably invested your money into this thing and you are building. So it's all in how you navigate it. The trick is to acknowledge those feelings, but not to let those feelings take you over. Take breaks, reset, but don't quit. Navigating trust in business. Whew, that's a tricky one. So I've been an entrepreneur for, let's say, about a good 10 years. But I, of course, told you I had the 9 to 5. But I've been an entrepreneur for about a good 10 years. I consider myself to be somewhat of a loner. But in business, you kind of need help. And even depending on what your business is, the nature of it is you have to learn to trust people. So you gotta get the power of discernment. You have to be very aware. And let's say my approach to going into business is I always felt comfortable kind of playing the undercard role. And when I say undercard, I mean that I was always okay with going into business settings and maybe not trying to seem like I was as knowledgeable of the territory that I was in, because it allowed me to take a step back and observe people. You know how they say that you kind of judge people based on how they treat someone that can do nothing for them? That was always the approach that I took. So if I'm not benefiting you, how do you talk to people? Are you going to tell me something that makes completely no sense or that you know is a lie because you feel like you can pull the wool over someone's eyes? And when you realize that you are dealing with those kind of people, then it's the evil that you know. You know how you need to navigate and move with those people. So trust is a really big thing. It's really hard, and I'm not going to say that you're going to get into business and you're just going to find the most kind-hearted, like-minded people who have your best interest at heart. The reality of being an entrepreneur is that a lot of people don't know what the heck they're doing. They don't know, and they mask not knowing by trying to come off as really mean, or they have to have a big shark, little fish mentality. It's a defense mechanism. There's a lot of things in business or how people move that really just kind of coincides with just what people do naturally, and it has nothing to do with business. And I would say that probably being a hairstylist and talking to so many different types of clients has helped me to hone in on that. When you're behind the chair, you're just kind of listening to people. And so you do hear insecurities, you hear fears, you hear people's different unique perspectives and takes on things. And it just gives you this bird's eye view to people watch. So learning to trust, my recommendation is that it may not be easy. I hope that you all have an easier time than I did with finding people that you can really trust and lock into. But sometimes you just got to take it with a grain of salt. It's like you can meet people and you just learn what you can learn from them. And maybe you keep a personal distance from them. But you're definitely going to have to do it because not everyone has the same work ethic, integrity as you, and that's a hard lesson to learn. Trust, but verify. Pay attention to actions, not just work. The next topic that I want to move into is mental, physical health and entrepreneurship. Like I said, you are the everything. You are the every department head in your entrepreneurship business, unless you are lucky enough to go in it with a partner or a family member or someone who can assist you in this. So your business thrives when you thrive, period. I know we all want to think that if we just dunk our head into entrepreneurship, into the work, that it's going to succeed because everything is depending on us. But when you are run down, the business does not thrive. Now, let me tell you about a lesson that I learned the hard way. I'm not that important, and I'm okay with it. I remember that when I was starting my business and taking more on myself, I would not work out. And let me frame this by saying that when I worked the 9 to 5, I would go to work, I would come home, and I spent 3 hours in the gym. My schedule was so routine. I would make my oatmeal at night, my nuts and my fruit and stuff on the top of it, sit down at my desk, my cushy little office job, and I would eat that at 10:30. I was doing intermittent fasting. Then I would have a snack about 2 hours later, and then I would go walking on my lunch break. I was eating my salads, and I had already had my intermittent fasting scheduled that when I got home, I could eat, and then I could proceed to go to the gym and spend those 3 hours. And it was like 3 hours of core strength. I was taking pole dance classes, and that was great. I was in the best shape. I felt like I had mental clarity because I was just working my 9 to 5 job. And then I was working at the hair salon, but it was not my main source of income. So it was easy for me to compartmentalize. But when there's no one there telling you to take a break, telling you to stop, there's no structured time. You could literally work until you fall asleep with the book in your lap. That's it. And then you realize that you're canceling your exercise classes. You're too tired. You don't want to do it. You're eating less because you are more distracted during the day. You're not eating the healthiest of options. Your mental health is going to start to suffer because you're not putting fuel into your body. So you got to be mindful of that. The business will be there. The business will thrive. But you are the business. You have to take care of yourself. Now, here's a lesson that I learned. I became a hairstylist. I realized that I wasn't drinking water like I needed to. I wasn't eating food like I needed to. Not because I was broke, but I just wasn't. I was just work. And then I had the hair salon. I had the podcast studio and a whole host of other components of the business that I knew that I needed to do. So that just was not my primary focus. And one day I realized that I felt euphoric, and not like a good euphoric. I mean, like life just started to feel slowed down mentally. I felt like it was super hard to get out of bed. I felt dizzy. My vision was hazy, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Like I went to the doctors and they're like, well, I think you're depressed. And I'm like, I don't think I'm depressed. You know, they tried to prescribe me some type of medicine for it. I couldn't describe it. And, you know, that just kind of goes to tell you, like, Black women in the health industry, they're always trying to stick us with some medicine. They're not really trying to help you in a holistic way. Because, you know, my take on it is that I needed to drink water, make sure that I was nourishing my body, and that I was taking things slower. Now, during this time that I did this, it was one particular day, because sometimes I would try to muscle through this feeling, this exhausted, tired feeling that I was having. And one day I just couldn't do it. I knew that I had about 5 clients on my books, and I was like, oh no, I hate to cancel. I didn't want to cancel on these clients. I didn't know what they had to get their hair done for, but I just knew that I could not go into work that day. So I called the clients, you know, or I text them and I say, hey, I'm not going to make it. Is it possible that we can move the schedule, move it to another day? Or can I place you with another hairstylist at the location that I was working at? And most people were like, okay. And I just said, you know, I had a medical emergency. So most people were okay with it. However, there was this one particular lady, and I don't think I had ever done her hair, but she was getting a cut down taper. For y'all that do not know what that is, your hair is typically cut very short to your head. And then you're taking these tiny curlers. Some people use a flat iron. I use a Marcel. And you put it into this hot stove. It's an unregulated temperature, so it can be so hot that it'll just burn the hair off as soon as it touches it. So you really need to have your faculties in order. And knowing that I could just space out and her hair will be burnt off her head, or she's getting scarred. And now that's a whole lawsuit for me. So I started to move her appointment, and the lady tells me that, okay, the hairstylist that I moved her with, I could not guarantee that she was going to do it for the same price that I was going to do it. So I think there's about a $10 difference. And this client, who I thought that I was looking out for her best intentions, said that, oh, so I have to pay an additional $10 because of your medical emergency. And I said, yeah, because we don't all have the same price. We're all independent contractors and we set the price. Now, and this is all through text. So I have the text message to show you that this was really this particular lady's mindset. And now the booking app that I go through, she said, I don't do credit cards. I don't do cash. So I'm just going to have to pay on your account and then you can send the money over to her, which once again is very inconsiderate because if I'm having a medical emergency, I need to rest. I shouldn't be worried about seeing whether or not you make it to the salon, corresponding between this client and another stylist. I should be resting. But nonetheless, I oblige, people pleasing, which is something that I have definitely grown out of. I've learned to tell people no. No, thank you. No, ma'am. No, how. So once again, you're not that important. The world will not end if you decide to take a break or to rest or to focus on your mental health. And I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, you may lose revenue, but what is for you will be for you. It's going to come back. The people that are loyal to you are going to hold off, or maybe they have to go somewhere temporarily and they will come back. So focus on you. I also want to discuss the importance of knowing when to isolate and when to seek support. Self-care is not just a buzzword, it's a business strategy. If you're running on empty, the business will fill it. So make sure that you have your support system. If you have people who you just know, if you talk to them, because I get it. Sometimes something can happen in that day and you just want to run and tell somebody about it because you already feel crappy. But as soon as you talk to them, you feel worse. That's okay. It's your job to acknowledge who those people are for you. So who's going to give you fuel? Although you need to learn how to fuel yourself. That's always the best practice. But know who you're going to go to get fuel and who you need to stay away from. Maybe you need to cut them out of your life altogether. But remember that. Now, another thing that I want to talk about while we're on the subject of needing to have that support system is remembering your why. When things get tough, and they will, remember your why. Your why keeps you going. When someone says something like, well, why don't you just get a job? Or wouldn't it be easier for you to work a 9-to-5 and do your job on the side? I have to remember my why. And I'm doing this because I've already spent time working in a 9-to-5. And what I'll say is I've had a lot of jobs, but perhaps not a lot of careers. And I believe in creative expression. I believe that when I have children, and I don't have them now, may never have them, but I want to be an example to say you can pursue your dreams and be profitable. I know that my mindset was always, if it's about making money, there are a lot of ways to make money. I don't have to go into the 9-to-5 setting and deal with being mistreated just to make money. And let's say like the average person is making about $30,000, $40,000, $45,000. You're commuting, you're dealing with people that you typically would not deal with, and that's great. It strengthens you, muscle, learn how to work with people. There are a lot of transferable skills in that. But I also remember the year that I doubled what I was making at my 9-to-5 because I believed in myself. I believed that if I work hard enough, I can do this. And I was just busy working in my business, so I didn't realize it until about tax time. I've never made that amount of money. And to say that I made it from my blood, sweat, and tears, from word of mouth, from just putting out great customer service and doing great work, that is the best reward. You get into business and you're not getting into business to prove anything to anyone else. You are the focal point of your business. So you are in business to prove to yourself that you can do this. I believe in you. You should believe in you too. So anytime I get defeated, I just reconnect back to my purpose. I have a vision for my life. I think of being able to take a trip, go into the mountains, work on illustrations, work on book designs. I think of being able to pick up a phone and check in with a client. And I'm not always going to be behind the chair. I think of being able to look at someone that I mentored and being like, you know what? Their success is my success because I helped them get there. And that's enough for me. It's enough for me to silence the noise of the naysayer that you just don't care what they're saying, because they're going to be doing what they're doing, working their job. They may or may not be fulfilled in it. But if you see greater for yourself, you're worthy of your dreams. You're worthy of the vision. If that's what you want, then go out and get it. To the outside world, your journey may look chaotic, but there's always a method to the madness. Don't you forget it. All right, guys. So if you found that this video resonates with you, then do me a favor. Drop a comment below. Let me know what your business experience has been. What have you learned so far? Make sure to subscribe for real talks about entrepreneurship and the creative journey. Stay focused. Stay creative. Peace.